You may have noticed these safe set state function calls. This is coming from our use safe dispatch custom hook that ensures that we never call a state update when our component has been unmounted. So let's make sure that that is operating correctly. And this one's going to be a little bit trickier. So I'm still going to want to get my result from render hook, and we'll call use async here. And then I'm going to need to get a promise and a resolve from deferred. And then we'll do the same thing that we're doing above. We'll say let p and act p equals result current run with that promise. And then here's where things get a little different. I need to unmount this async while this promise is in flight. So we're going to say unmount as a utility from render hook. We'll call unmount. And now the component that's hosting this use async hook has unmounted. And so as soon as this promise resolves, it should not trigger a state update. So let's put that in an await act async. We'll call resolve and await that promise that we got back from run. And let's just save that right there. Okay, so everything's passing, but let's make sure that we're testing what we think we are. So right down here, when this is resolved, we call set data, and set data uses safe set state. So what if instead I call set state? Okay, so all my tests are still passing, but now I'm getting this warning from React. So how do I make sure that that warning doesn't show up? I mean, I can look at the output and I know that the warnings show up, and so then maybe I'll fix it. But my test is actually passing, so CI would pass, and we might not notice it until somebody actually runs all the tests locally, which in a big test suite isn't entirely likely. So what we need to do is make sure that no console error logs are made during our tests. So what I'm going to do is do a just spy on console error. And then we can simply say expect console error not to have been called. And now our test is failing. Perfect. So now if we come back here and use safe set state, then our test is passing and we know that we're testing what we think we are, and it can fail, which is really important. Now to preserve our test isolation, we're going to say console.error mock restore so that we can restore console.error to its original implementation and no longer spy on it. And our tests are passing. You know, putting this right here though is great, but if there is some sort of error thrown, then the console error mock restore is never going to get called, and so all the other tests will still have this just spy on the console error. And that's normally not a big deal, but it's pretty simple to work around. So I'm going to move both of these up here. We're going to put those in my clipboard, and I'm going to go up to the very top, and we'll add a before each. We'll put that in there, and then an after each, and we'll put the console error mock restore in there. And that way we make sure that console error is mocked for every test, and the original value is restored after every test. So even if a test fails, we'll still restore the original implementation of the console so we don't mess with other tests, because test isolation is serious business. So we'll save that, and we're in a good state here.